First, let's talk a little bit about what French polish is and recap where we're at. There is a lot of information out there about French polishing and a lot of opinions. This is just one of them, but I do think it's the easiest, the fastest, the most forgiving, and generally one of the best ways to get a great finish on your guitar without the need for a lot of specialized equipment, spray booths, or safety gear. It can be intimidating, but I will walk you through the entire process in this video series. French polish as we know it today was largely refined in Europe, and mainly France, in the 1700s, using shellac resin as the highest quality finish that you could get for furniture or musical instruments like guitars or pianos. As technology advanced in the early 1900s and finishes like nitrocellulose, polyester, and polyurethane came onto the market, the French polish technique largely fell out of favor in the mass market. But that doesn't really apply or matter to guitar builders like you or me. A shellac French polish finish is a lot more labor intensive, that's for sure. And it's a bit more delicate, but it is sonically one of the best finishes that we can put on an acoustic guitar. And with enough patience, we can get pretty close to a high gloss sheen. I have used a lot of different finishes, and I still experiment quite a bit, but I always seem to come back to the French polish. I've been using French polish since I started building guitars over 20 years ago. It was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of times it was super frustrating. The turning point for me came when I took a master class on French polishing taught by Robbie O'Brien. It was an experience for me that really shaped my approach to building, finishing, and teaching that has stuck with me to this day. For more info on Robbie's work, you can check out his website, the Lutherie Academy, which is a great resource for Lutherie instruction. Over the years, my own method has evolved a bit, so I hope that I can make your journey into French polishing smoother and a lot less frustrating, so that I can pay forward all the opportunities that I was given when I started out. What makes this so secret and modern? Two things. Number one, I don't use pumice. I pretty much use anything but pumice. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but there are so many great options out there that I just don't need it. I've used water-based fillers, oil-based fillers, drywall spackle, flooring wood filler, super glue, epoxy, and I've even used egg whites. It all works. They all work fine. You just have to find your own method, what works for you, what works for your color options on your guitar, and just go with it. The real trick is to start this French polishing process with a smooth surface on your guitar. The thin shellac that we use in this French polish process is not going to fill anything. It's just going to exaggerate the pores, and when you look at it under a raking light, you're going to see everything. And number two, sandpaper. Yes, sandpaper. This is the real secret that makes some people in the online forums and support groups completely freak out. It's somewhat antithetic to traditional French polish, but the product that we get in the end is phenomenal. It saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of aggravation. When they were perfecting this process hundreds of years ago, they didn't have access to sandpaper technology like we have today, especially in the higher grits like 1000 and 1200. But if they did have it, I guarantee they would have used it. I will do my best along the way to dispel some of the voodoo and the mystique of this process and break it down as well as I can in some very prescribed step-by-steps as we go. So let's recap where we're at in the finishing process. We have gone through all the prep work. We have sanded, we've masked our bridge, we've masked the fretboard, we have pore filled, We have gotten all the nooks and crannies we possibly can. Now we are ready to start actually French polishing. It's generally misunderstood, I think. It's really not that difficult, but you do need to follow some very precise, prescribed steps in order to make it work and in order to do a good job about it. This technique essentially has 5 parts. One is the preparation, the surface prep, the pore filling, all the things that you should have done by now at this point. Number 2 is the sealing phase, which if you put a 1 pound cut just to protect your guitar already, you kind of did that, but this is a little different. This is using the French polish technique and the application technique to actually do a seal coat and get a build at the same time. Number 3 is the actual polishing. Now this is a cycle. So this third part, the polishing step, you really need to consider as a set of steps within a set of steps. So when we talk about the polishing phase, it's really 5 parts in and of itself. I will break down each of those 5 parts when we get to it, and I'll probably repeat it several times so that you really have it drilled into your mind exactly what those parts are. Number 4 is leveling. This is one of the things that really sets this technique apart from the others and makes it much quicker, in that we do use sandpaper in this leveling process. As recently as 100 years ago, they did not have the quality sandpaper that we have today, especially when you get up into the higher grits that we will use for that process, which is 1200, 1000, to really make this process quicker and a little bit easier to have a gorgeous flat level surface at the end. Number 5 is spiriting off, and that is using pure alcohol to wipe away some of the oil that we had left on there in the polishing process. And we'll get to that in a little more detail when we actually do the spiriting. So let's get right into it, and I'll show you some of the supplies that you need. The first thing we're going to need is some cheesecloth in order to make our muneca, or pad. We're going to need about a 4-inch square. If we get this too big, it's going to end up causing some real problems and storing too much shellac and alcohol and probably melting whatever you had just applied. So this is just fine. The second thing we are going to need is some material for the outer cover of the muneca. I use linen. Linen is pretty sturdy, but it's not super rough. It also tends not to shed, so that I don't end up with a lot of fuzzies sticking into my finish when I'm applying, but it is sturdy enough to hold up well during the polishing process, so it actually does do a good job of polishing and spreading the finish around. I just have a strip of this that I'm going to cut off a bunch of squares. I'm not going to need this many for this guitar, but I have the strip cut. I might as well be prepared. I'll probably replace the outer pad at least once. I'm just at the very end for the spiriting. There we go. This material I just got at the fabric store. Just ask them for a white linen and they should be able to direct you exactly where you need to go. Again, about a 4-inch square piece of that. I typically use a 1 pound cut of blonde shellac to seal anything that I'm doing, any of my work pieces. I've got that in here. I have it labeled. I have it dated. In this container, I put in some pure grain alcohol up to this line, and then I added about that amount again of a 1 pound cut of blonde shellac, and then I added a little bit more. which is going to get me somewhere close to about a 3/4 pound cut. Somewhere between a half and 3/4 is what I have in here now. You can use denatured alcohol, which you can find almost at any hardware store. The trouble with it is that to make it denatured, they actually add toxins and poisonous substances into it so that you don't drink it, which really can harm you. It can affect several of your organs, and not that drinking enough of the pure grain alcohol can't do that, but by just casual contact with it is not going to harm you like denatured alcohol does. I'm still going to wear some gloves, but just so my hands don't get sticky. Now I'm going to transfer my 3/4 pound cut into this bottle, and we'll start sealing the guitar in the next video. We'll see you then.